It's another beautiful morning here in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. It's 27 degrees in partly cloudy weather. Well, yes, it's the rainy season, so anything can happen with the rains. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
I really wish I could have just chorused everything that you said, one after the other, like some AI who could read your mind. But I am Akide. Good morning and welcome. Today is the 28th day in the month of May. It's the morning after Children's Day. 28 degrees here in Lagos, Maupe. I am Akide. Good morning and welcome.
Indeed, I'm sure that the skyline in Lagos that you have for us in Lagos will be telling us just what the day is looking like. I don't know. Has it been pouring, Ayo?
Well, it has poured, but I don't think it has poured this morning, although I've been in the studio for quite a bit. This malware on the screen right now attracted quite some attention the first time we put it out, and it's like, look, I mean, I just want to experience that again. And one guy put on social media that, look, if you have not, you will learn the lesson on Okwebi Island and you will go and experience it at Aja. Whatever that meant, but this is Okwebi Island roundabout. To your left, it goes to Toyin Street and into the heart of Ikeja, and right straight ahead takes you to Allen Junction, is Allen Avenue, and at the end of it, you will hit Obafemi Awolowo Way in Ikeja. Well, it's Way in Ikeja and Road in Ikoyi, just for those who might be wondering. So yes, this is it. And years ago, some decades ago, this place was nothing but just endless game center, forest reserves and sort. But look at it now. Just look at it now, Maupe. Ever busy as usual.
Well, Ayo, you know, sometimes when you talk about some years ago, you have to be very specific what years ago. Because, you know, I remember in my university days, I stayed on this road. I grew up on this road, at least in my university days. And it has changed a bit. It's changed quite a bit. I still remember taking walks down from Okwebi down to Toyin Street, where to go and borrow movie cassettes. But yes, this is what we have now. It's changed somewhat. It looks a little prettier. Certainly looks prettier. I'm wondering what where all the cables have gone to. Have they buried them? It's certainly good to see it looking much nicer, Ayo.
Well, I think for one, you can say that we know what is good and we try to compare, upscale and upgrade our own environments as well, you know, to make it look the best that it can be so that we can showcase it to the world like this. And talking about years, well, maybe you'll be talking about something in the region of 30, 40 years ago. To your left and to your, well, maybe more to the right of your screen right now, the interior is amazing. It's largely developed, Maupe, largely much developed, much more developed now than it was even 20 years ago. But it's good, of course, you know, it's Lagos. We have little land, so hey, let's maximize as much as we can, right? Shall we?
Indeed, and there are already examples to that. For those wondering, you know, what you can see on Okwebi Island, just in case you're there, if you ever decide to visit on Okwebi Island, you have that statue there. You can see the hands up right there. Is that of Fela Anikulapo Kuti. And then you also have, just on the side there, just branching up to Toyin Street, is where you also have the iconic home of MKO Abiola, who once resided in that place. It's become a mecca of sorts now, that every June 12, and another June 12 is approaching, that will be coming after May 29th. Democracy Day, it's now called. We now have that place being visited by democracy activists who still remember the role that he played, as MKO Abiola played, in ensuring that we come back to our democratic dispensation. But Ayo, as we are now talking about May 29 and June 12, tomorrow is May 29, as we know, is the first year of the president in office, and quite a number of things are happening right here in the Federal Capital Territory. First off, I'm hoping that will come up shortly now. First off, you have the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory flagging of the commissioning of projects today to mark the president's first year in office. So that will be coming up today. And then we also have the ministerial sectorial briefing also continuing. Don't forget that this started on Wednesday. The SGF, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, flagged it up on Wednesday. And since that time, Thursday, Friday, yesterday, we've seen a number of ministers come to tell Nigerians what it is that they have been able to accomplish so far in their different ministries. That briefing is continuing today.
Well, I'm sure that several other activities are still also going to preclude the May 29 event that you talked about, and this is just one of them. But while we are talking about what is going to happen tomorrow or today, the Naira has gained in the official market. So that is the focus of Business Morning on Sunrise Daily this morning. Naira gains in official market. How good or cool does that sound? Well, more of that you'll get today at the top of the next hour during Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. In the meantime, let's take you through some of the papers today. Our first pick on the papers this morning is the Blueprint newspaper, which leads with conditions of LG councils worrisome, as according to Tinubu Abbas. Third tier of government in bondage, SIECs should be scrapped. That's according to Fagbemi, the AGF. Find out the details of that on the inside pages of the paper. And right under that story, court restrains Adobayero, 4 others as Kano emirs. KNSG seeks Tinubu's intervention. Find the details of that one also continue on the inside pages. That same story leads the Nigerian Tribune today. Court orders police to evict Bayero from Kano Palace. Bars him, 4 others from parading themselves as emirs. Security uncovers plots to attack assembly complex, important places. Kano government begs Tinubu to move Bayero out of state. Deputy governor apologizes to NSA, withdraws allegations of connivance. Find the details of that story on page 3 of the paper this morning. Daily Independent leads with AGF makes case for scrapping of state electoral commissions, says they are appendage to every incumbent governor. Once functions, powers transferred to INEC. AGF Zekome won against legislative fiat on national anthem. At the bottom of that picture on the front page, we can't be intimidated over our decisions on Sanusi, that's according to Kano government. Court orders Bayero, 4 others to stop parading themselves as emirs. Orders police to evict deposed Bayero from palace. The Nigerian News Direct is interested in Northern governors pledge 5% budget allocation to help over 4 million IDPs. Find the details of that story on page 23 of the Nigerian News Direct this morning. The Nigerian Observer, FG injects 309 billion naira into agriculture amidst calls for year-round irrigation from dams. Wouldn't that be exciting and wonderful? The details on the front page continues on the inside pages of the paper. Daily Trust, FG wants state electoral bodies scrapped. And look at the writers. Why governors are against LG autonomy, according to State Assembly's speakers. Empowering LG's key to national security. That's the lead story of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. The Guardian, amid penetration surge, Nigerians spent over 500 billion naira on data in Q1. Find out the details on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper this morning. On the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, Labour, private sector operators bicker over minimum wage. And look at the writers. Organized Labour's 497,000 naira demand unrealistic, according to presidency, adds affordability key to arriving at any figure. NLC seeks minimum wage for journalists in Nigeria, cautions against harassment by security agencies. Find the details of that one on page 8 of the paper this morning.
The Daily Times newspaper is interested in this one. Nigeria Air remains suspended. Says ownership structure of suspended airline not beneficial to Nigeria. Nigeria, Saudi Arabia to revive cargo flight operations, that's according to Kiyamo. Business Day newspaper, Naira falls, external reserves dip despite FX reforms. Find the details of that one also on the inside pages of the paper this morning. And that's the much of the papers we have for you today, which is your own take.
Well, whatever your take is, you certainly can send them to our handles, Sunrise Daily at channelstv.com and Sunrise Daily Now on the platform X. Well, just in case you're wondering what it is that I'm thinking, quite a number of stories catching my fancy this morning. Vanguard Newspapers has this lead headline, Labour, private sector operators bicker over minimum wage. That's the lead story right there. Organized labour's 497,000 demand, unrealistic. 497,000 naira demand, unrealistic, according to the presidency. Adds that affordability is key to arriving at any figure. And then you also find that rider there, which is also in bold print. NLC seeks minimum wage for journalists in Nigeria, cautions against harassment by security agents. And I'm smiling because, you know, I have to ask, is that an attempt to make sure that we're on the same side in this fight? You know, that journalism remain neutral. After all, the NLC is also pushing for journalists as well. Well, I don't know what the answer to that will be, but page 8 is where you'll find details. It's certainly something to take another look at. But I think that we need to be able to move away from bickering. Clearly, 497,000 naira, whilst it might be desirable, might not exactly be realistic. If that is where the minimum is going to start from, we also have to think about what implications that will be for inflation. You know, whether people in the private sector will be able to afford it and all. But at the same time, I think we will also plead with government to say, look, government and the private sector to be more realistic about the current economic realities. How much do they really think is fair enough for the least serving worker in Nigeria to be able to take home at the end of the month? If we continue to insist that the only way we can pay workers is at the end of the month, are we not thinking weekly pay? Are we thinking hourly wages in such a way that people can work in one place? When they're done spending the number of hours they'll spend there, they can go to another place to look for another job. People can work 2 to 3 jobs to be able to, you know, put something decent together. Because from what we have seen, since we like to copy other climes, what we have seen is that hourly wages is what we get. The minimum wage is set by the hour, and employers know that they can calculate, this is how much I'll pay, you know, at the end of every hour. You as an employee can decide how many hours you want to be able to work with an employer, especially at the low cadre level. And I think that, you know, maybe there's another way that Labour and the federal government and even the private sector can begin to look at if this costs. You know, this will continue to prove quite difficult for them and Labour to be able to reach a compromise. But this constant bickering, while people are still suffering, because let's not forget that fuel subsidy was taken away since May last year, is already a year now, and people have been living on this minimum wage. There is hardship in the land. So it is important that the federal government and Labour organizations reach a compromise quickly in a way that is realistic and also, you know, helps to, you know, buoy the economy and prevent people from getting into the kinds of things they ought not to be getting into. Ayo.
Well, I'll just put that word bickering, Maokwe, into one of those dockets that, you know, just a word, right? So maybe we should use some synonyms. Maybe, I don't know. I've not read the story, but please do as well. But there is no doubt that everything you said, Maokwe, is quite salient. And I'm hoping that everyone has factored everything. And of course, you know, we're going to be talking about local government administration, you know, all the talk about that one as well this morning. Can they afford 497,000 naira monthly for the gardener? Paint the picture. Let's so we understand, where that is all of that is going. But the one that takes my fancy this morning, Malkwa, is on the front page of the Nigerian Observer, which leads with the fact that the federal government has injected about 309 billion naira into agriculture amidst calls for year-round irrigation from dams. It is first of all cheering to know that the federal government indeed has injected so much money. Of course, the details you'll find on the front page of the Nigerian Observer this morning, because we remember the president in the just as about the time that he came into power, decided, you know what, guys, we need to declare a state of emergency on food security in the country. So this is perhaps in that regard. However, my question continues to be collaboration between the federal and the state governments. Regional collaboration among the states. We have seen that it can work because it worked between Lagos and Kebbi. Are there other states engaged in that kind of partnership as well? It is cheering to know that the Minister of Solid Minerals is having conversations with state governments, particularly the ones that are rich in mineral resources. There's hardly any state in Nigeria that isn't. To ensure that the needful is done and then the states are secure and they are not thrown into confusion simply because they have mineral resources. That's amazing, that's cheering. So it is that partnership that we need to expedite and propel as much as we can. I mean, there is a state in this country we call the food basket of the country, the food basket of the nation. Please, how big is this basket now? And then all of the things that need to go into the value chain, the logistics of moving food around, the packaging, the storage. Have we been able to cut down on the wastages that come as a result of post-harvest activities? All of these are amazing things, but please, it's about time we got working. Calls for year-round irrigation from dams isn't even much of a thing. Agriculture has gone way beyond all of these. We now have what they call urban agriculture. You can literally farm on the wall of your house. You can farm in the air. You can farm on the sea. These things are all over the world. And it's not because Nigerians don't have the brain. We know that Nigerians are an amazingly ingenious set of people. Give us the wings and we will fly. That's my take this morning, Malcolm.
All right, Ayo, I think we can successfully wrap up the paper segment and wait for the take of our viewers. We hope that you have found a story or two which catches your fancy and might want to let us know on our feedback handles. Well, we'll take a break at this moment and we'll be back to sink our teeth shortly into the issues of the day. I already hinted you about I don't want to say the AGF's onslaught, but I'm looking for a better word, the AGF's onslaught to save the local governments. Is this something that will fly with the National Assembly, especially with the Constitutional Amendment already ongoing? And also, what would be the verdict? What do we expect to be the verdict of the Supreme Court come the 30th of May? In a moment, please stay with us.
The autonomy of local governments has been a subject of debate for many years. And as the National Assembly commences another round of constitution amendments, the House is holding a national discourse on Nigeria's security challenges and good governance at the local government level. This is to further buttress the importance of the local government, which is the closest to the people.
I call on all governors to put Nigeria first and collectively support the President in the quest to grant full autonomy to local governments. We must definitely resolve the controversy surrounding the status of local governments by providing the framework needed to ensure their optimal operation.
Whether corruption exists in the national level, in the federal level, or in the state level, we identify it as true. So what negates the local governments from also having the same issues?
We need also to understand the institutions that are stakeholders in the governance of local government, like the security situation, the DPO, the SSS, the traditional institution. The traditional institution has broken down. People are behaving anyhow.
The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice wants the control of the local government out of the hands of state governors.
Many experts have proposed that there is need for scrapping the State Independent Electoral Commission. Their functions and powers should be transferred to the Independent National Electoral Commission, because the State Independent Electoral Commission remains an appendage of the incumbent governor, and it behaves as such. I have not seen any state where local government election is conducted, however poorly the governor or the government may have performed, that will not return the members of the political party as the winner of the election.
President Bola Tinubu is represented by the Minister of Defense. He decries the degrading state of the local governments.
Local governments are the frontline defenders against insecurity, as they are closest to the people and possess intimate knowledge of their communities' needs and challenges. This is why some have advocated for community policing as a finesse to our internal security challenges. It is in light of their foregoing that our administration is committed to implementing measures aimed at bolstering the local government system, recognizing that sustainable development, national security and prosperity can only be achieved when every level of government functions effectively and accountably.
The House of Representatives believes that by holding this discourse, it would carry stakeholders along, especially the state assemblies, to avoid another rejection of the Constitution Amendment Bill at the state level. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Well, that's basically what we're talking about right now. The Attorney General, there was a whole conversation from what you saw in that report, championed by the National Assembly, bordering on security and good governance, particularly at the level of the local government, and that's where the discussion was. But you heard the Attorney General's stance advocating the scrapping of the state electoral commissions, which he believes may be at the heart of the problem, where, you know, everybody who is returned in a particular election organized by state electoral commissions are usually the members of the political party of the governor of the state. And that, according to him, that is whether or not the governor is doing well. And that is even when the elections are conducted, I might add. Well, that's what we're talking about this morning, and we have two guests with us. Bishop Amakri is the chairman of the YPP, and he's joining us via Zoom from Port Harcourt. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Mr. Amakri.
Sorry, Nigerians. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for inviting me.
Fantastic. And I know that Ayo also has a guest in Lagos.
Yes, Mr. Segun Akabashoron is here. He is a former vice chairman of Koshofe local government between 2008 and 2011. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
First of all, it's not the first time the National Assembly is holding this kind of events, yes, trying to educate people, enlighten people about the local government administrations and all of that. Do you see this making any significant difference?
Well, it is unprecedented that despite the fact that other governments have tried it, especially the last administration of Buhari. But what is unprecedented here is that this is the first year of a new administration. And if they are tackling this problem at this onset within the first year of their emergence, then it shows that definitely we may be able to have local government autonomy this time around. I mean, I have advocated for it for the last 15 years since I left office. And it's for me to see a government coming this early to say, I want this instituted. It's a very, very welcome. I'm elated. I'm even surprised that this government at this early stage is trying to institute this. And this is for the good of everybody. It's a win-win for everyone. It's amazing.
All right, well, let me Bishop Amakri, what's your take, first of all, when you heard this initiative from the federal government? Can you hear me? Okay. All right, okay. Can you hear me now? Yes.
Yeah, but I didn't hear your question. Sorry.
Okay, I'm just asking what your first take is on this particular, on that particular conversation, especially the part that the AGF is speaking to.
So much, Ayo. Frankly speaking, when we want to talk about nation building, we must take politics aside and bring on board the spirit of patriotism. And I must confess this morning, we have criticized the government when they go wrong, but when they go the right way, we also, applaud them. We glorify them. The only person that I can say that is talking out of sincerity of purpose among the persons who have spoken, before bringing us on board, I must say is only the AGF. I saw some governors who spoke there. I think the present Minister of Defense. I also saw the present chairman of APC. They were governors in their states for 8 years. Nobody gave concern to this kind of reforms. So for me, it's hypocritical for them to even be talking that. But I must confess, I must say kudos to the federal government, kudos to the AGF, who have taken the bold step to return power to the people.
Well, it's also interesting that the president, while in office as governor, also took on the federal government at the time and saying, guys, no, we need this. And of course, Mark referenced that yesterday when we were talking about this whole issue as well, that look, Lagos has 37 LCDAs simply because the federal government didn't allow. And all the states also have taken on that initiative as well. But, Mr. Akabashorun, speak to exactly, let people understand what you consider to be the issues here. You have said it. I mean, you've been advocating since about the past 15 years or so when you left office. But I'm aware that since way before then, at least there was something, 2005 or thereabout, I was part of an advocacy by a civil society organization representing my media organization at the time and went throughout all of the Southwest states trying to educate them on the need for that autonomy. Independence, autonomy of the local government administrations. And it would seem like it's either the understanding is not there or the political patronage is a lot more important to them than. What exactly do you think to be the issues here?
Well, the most important aspect of this issue is that autonomy is beautiful for growth. And local government is definitely a tier of government enshrined in the Constitution of Nigeria. And as such, there has always been this back and forth between the governors and the local government that they are a creation of the states, and as such, they should be under the control of the states. And the advocacy has always said, for the sake of development, for the sake of the development, getting to the grassroots, bottoms up rather than trickle down, that it is better for the autonomy of local governments to exist. And gladly that today that people are talking about it. I mean, we've discussed this so many times about the benefits. It's amazing. We have issues of education, basic education. We have the issues of health, primary health. And we have the issue of sanitation, including water, I mean, basic things that are very important, and employment, because if you say local government, I mean, if you look all over the world, local government build airports. Even Dangote resides in a local government. I mean, it's not going to do it without the input of the local government. So if you let them think out of the box, I think local government can perform heavily in Nigeria.
No,
so
let's just be clear.
Yes.
I know that Mr. Makri would also want to weigh in, but let's just be clear. What exactly are the issues? The Constitution says it's a joint account, meaning it is an account that is owned by two different bodies, two different autonomous individuals or personalities, so to speak. So what exactly is the issue here? Is it that the governors are the ones that have to sign for the local governments to pick their money? What exactly is the issue?
The joint account issue is that the governors bring the money and puts it in a joint account, and then they sit down and then share the money. Share meaning that they give the local government theirs, and local government takes theirs, the state takes theirs. Now, the issue is really beyond that. First and foremost, the Attorney General of the Federation went to the Supreme Court, and it seems we need to get clarity on this. The reason why he went to the Supreme Court is to say that the issue of caretaker committee is an aberration to the Constitution. It doesn't exist.
Well, that's a different conversation altogether. But even now, when we have elected local government officials, that's the issue here.
Yeah, I mean, if you give them their money directly, who is giving the money matters. The federal government is one giving the grants. Or, I mean, yes, they are grants from the federal allocation. Now, if they are giving them, then they should hold them directly accountable. Because the issue of, the money went to the local government, I mean, went through the government, and the governors or the government of the state are somehow emasculated them by taking a chunk out of their money to say, we have projects we're going to do. And this has happened in many, many states, and people have said, this has to stop. And I think this is one of the reasons why the issue of scrapping the joint account, I mean, not all the states do this, mind you, but for some states where like I said, I'm trying to allude to that the issue of caretaker, they've not had election in years. So the state government is in charge of the allocation because he has put a caretaker committee. So it's very, very relevant that the issue of when you say independence, you give them their money, then they are accountable to how they appropriate that money. So there has to be the Office of the Auditor General who oversees and queries how these monies are spent. So they're going to be held directly liable and responsible. And this is a good thing. So it's the issue that needs to be resolved once and for all.
Well, Mr. Mark, Bishop Mark, is it that the Houses of Assembly are not aware of the benefits of an autonomous, financially and administratively autonomous local government administration in the country? I ask that because quite a number of times we've heard several officials of government, several security experts come out and say to us, look, the local government administration is the first line of defense in when you talk about security, because they have their own security committees as well, made up of community development associations, made up of traditional rulers and all of this. Without them being able to do that, that is a vulnerability. Is it an issue or an understanding that the Houses of Assembly in each of the states, to your mind, are not aware of?
No, you can't. They are very much aware. Do you see, the problem there, is that in this country, we are not practicing democracy. We are practicing loyalism. Loyalism in the sense that people, especially the House of Assembly members that you have just mentioned, you remember or you can recall that in this country, every politician, especially those who find themselves in the seat of, power, starting from whether the local government, the House of Assembly members, like you say, one governor must have to endorse all of the persons that have to be House of Assembly members in that state. So, in a real sense, nobody is thinking about, development. They just, what they think, what most of them go there to discuss is, for example, I have numbers of House of Assembly members in some state House of Assemblies. And every day they cry they call to tell you is that, oh, these governors are really on us. These governors are not giving us breathing space. And I asked them, why? What do you think? What do you mean by the governors are not giving you breathing space? You go there to make laws for your people. You are not going there to toe the same line in which the governor is asking you to do. So they put politics first rather than development. That's the problem. Nobody is thinking about development. They only go there to see what can they make. Okay? And that is the problem that we're having. So I'm very happy that the AGF now is taking this bold step to see how, you see, freedom in life. My brother, there is nothing like freedom. And let us now see whether who now will continue to, apportion blames to these governors by saying, oh, the governors are taking control. Because over the years, since the return of the democracy, I can say that, frankly speaking, democracy has thrived much in Nigeria because we have people. Now, we also have to deal with the human factor here. Now, if the AGF is also pushing, I honestly admire this AGF. For the first time, I'm seeing, a government who has this zeal, who has this genuine enthusiasm, the passion, to talk about what concerns the people. Because, my brother, local government is key. If the local government functions, I tell you, like you rightly say, it's not just it's about our democratic and political stability. Development will spring up from local government. Here you have persons who now begin to control the resources within themselves. No governor, what they do in most of these cities, when the money comes, they share the money. No any development. You see schools, and the annoying part is you go to schools where most of these governors or even the House of Assembly members who are in those states go to cast their vote. And some of these schools,
Mr. Makri,
look very you can't. It's so annoying that you see some of these schools the way they look. Some of them even go to some of those primary schools in those days, and they go back there to cast. All they're after is let them cast their vote. They are not even thinking about how they can renovate those schools and get them back to life. So it's so that let's see whether now, I pray that some of these persons also now that we begin to run the affairs of local government. Now we're about to get this liberation, this from the hands of some of these emperors, governors in states. Most of them have become emperors. Looters are not leaders. What they do is use our own taxpayers' money to their own self-aggrandizement. It's so annoying. My heart bleeds every day when you go to the rural communities and you look at the level of poverty, under development. Nothing is happening in the local government. And yet we continue to say we have a government or we have governors. They are not doing anything.
Mr. Makri, it is interesting. Sorry to interrupt you. It is interesting to note that the conversation which the National Assembly, specifically the House of Reps, was hosting had to do with security and good governance. And some people will wonder what is the nexus between that conversation and the functionality of local governments. Do you want to speak a little more to that?
Why? I think it's because, look, it is the locality, the local governments, communities. Actually, when you talk about security, some of these people perpetrating this act, they didn't come from the moon. They are also resident in all our localities. Okay, so now it will be the responsibility of some of these local government chairmen, okay, to begin to also relate pragmatically with their people, okay? Set up, some kind of modalities, okay, that will bring about a proper check about the doings of people in their localities. So I think they have an exit. You know, insecurity, you know that is one of the things that actually we are battling with in this country. And all the acts of this insecurity, they come from one local government. Anywhere there is an act of insecurity, it is a local government area of that community or that state.
Let's take on the issue of freedom, which you've spoken to. You've explained that nexus, but let's take on the issue of freedom, which you've spoken to, because what the Attorney General, I don't know if you can hear me, what the Attorney General, oh fantastic, what the Attorney General has spoken to is the scrapping of the state electoral bodies. Some people will say that we cannot be seeking to give more autonomy to the local governments while we're scrapping the autonomy of states to be able to conduct local government elections and do a few things by themselves. Do you think that this is in the best interest of the entire nation? Because some people will say, on the one hand, we're thinking we should establish state police. On the other hand, we're thinking we should scrap state electoral bodies. Is this really in the best interest? Shouldn't we be asking for the strengthening of these bodies instead?
But there's nothing to strengthen there, because when you give somebody an opportunity over and over time and he underperforms, what are you strengthening him for? We all know that these sects, them are just at the mercy of the governors. Okay, over the years, tell me how many political parties have won election from opposition. We just had recently one of the local government elections that was conducted in Oyo, is it Oyo State or somewhere, was 100 over 100. So you are saying the other political parties do not have persons who actually participated. My dear, the way to go is the proposal that the AGF has made. Let us scrap the sect and empower. What empowerment are you giving to the governors? They have enough things to do. They should be focusing on thinking on how they would develop their states. Okay, they have so much powers. These governors have so much powers. So what have they done with the powers that they have? Is it only the local government or sects? Sorry, all the sects that they will need? No, I totally subscribe that they should scrap the sect and empower and let the INEC at the national conduct elections. Whereby, sorry?
Go ahead.
Yes, let the national, that is INEC at the national, conduct local government elections. In that vein, I think there will be more hope for Nigerians.
Let me take the question to Mr. Segun Kabasharon. This same issue as well. I'm wondering whether you do not see any danger in it, considering the fact that we have complained about how everything is over-centralized. Even at this time, we're talking about unbundling INEC. We think that INEC has too many responsibilities. But here we are asking, the Attorney General is saying that, the SIECs be scrapped because of the results which they usually churn out. And it seems that they're just an extension of the executive arm of government in the respective states that they belong to. But at the same time, we're asking for state policing, even though there have been fears before now that too much power or so much power in the hands of state executives could also be dangerous. Do you see a contradiction here? Do you think that there's any way we can actually strengthen the SIECs without necessarily disempowering them by scrapping them?
Absolutely. I think we need to be careful with contradictions. Because INEC is not that perfect. They have their imperfections, which they need to revisit. So when we talk of independence, it's about giving the body that conducts the election independent, so they are not biased. So that is the picture or the idea that we're trying to encourage here: independent body. So what we need to do is not to give INEC another area of responsibility, which will be an addition to what they are already dealing with and not perfected in the general elections. That is one. Two, so I mean, in that aspect, what we need to do is to see the body of independence, where has to be the independence, especially people that are going to be at this SIEC or whatever you want to call them. They have to be chosen independently without the government or the state government interferences. So these are the things that, I mean, they have to have their monies through the consolidated funds. Is one of those suggestions in the past that it can be done. So the spirit of what we want is true independent body to conduct this election. Then secondly, the issue of how insecurity relates to local government. Of course, local governments have different, every week they have security meetings with all the police officers, that is the DPOs and the area commanders within their area. They have what you call a security meeting every week. And the same thing with all the bailies and chiefs, council of chiefs. The CDAs brings information if there's an influx, because it's going to curb rural and urban migration. So if there's an influx into a community, the CDA alerts the appropriate bodies in these meetings and say, listen, we have an influx of people who just came from nowhere. We don't know who they are. I mean, if you remember in Lagos, under the bridge, I think it was Falomo Bridge, that they found hundreds of people who are living under the bridge. It's the local government or somebody in the local government or the CDA we inform the state that we have a problem here. And this is how you curb this illegal migration from rural to urban cities like this. And the same thing with security. So you are the first-hand security to know what is happening, and then you can give information to the police to respond appropriately. And if they don't, then you can say you are informed about this place, this influx, and you did nothing to assuage that situation. So it really, really matters for local governments to have their independence. And then when you have independence, the people in charge are going to come because the people in their community chose them, respect them, know that they are worthy to be their representative. And if you know it is that the people that made choices independently that you are the best person for us, then you will care about them. You will go back to them and say, what is it I have not done? Because you are not far away from them. You're not in the state offices or federal government offices where they cannot see you. They can knock on your door anytime. They know where you reside. So you have local government officers and chairmen who don't even live in their locality because of this issue that they are unpicked and put there. So they don't care about their community or the residents within their community. They don't want to listen to them. But if you come from them, then you will be held liable because there's no way for you to run. They know where you live. They know where your children or your family. They know when you are in a party. They will meet you over there quickly and respond to you, say, Mr. Chairman, you are here enjoying in the party and we're having these issues. You made promises, you have not kept it. You will meet us at the pool the next time. And this is how effectiveness, responsive effectiveness is being built. And it is at that time, this very time, after 25 years of this Fourth Republic, that we are now coming back to the question of autonomy. It has to be done. We should not go back to the drawing board because this has to be 2 steps forward, not one step forward and 2 steps backwards. No, we have to take 2 steps forward and move forward so that we can have development at the grassroots. We can create employment at the grassroots. We have to have technocrats, great people of great minds who have achieved a lot within their locality or within the nation, who will come back to their locality where they live, where they reside, where they have invested their money, where their children go to school and live, that they will say, I need my local government to be protected because my family lives here too, and I live here, my investment is here. And this is what autonomy will do to everybody. It's a win-win. So what government is doing is a wonderful, I've said it here, that I'm very surprised that in this first year of the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that this initiative is taken up. It is unprecedented. It means that within the 4 years of this first term, that we are going to see something that you'll call revolutionary politically. And this is amazing. We need this. This has to work. So this discussion is very welcome, and we are all ready to sit down and partake in the processes that it needs, whether going to the assemblies, going to the state assemblies, everywhere in Nigeria, and begging them that you must approve this autonomy. It's about time. There is no way, there's no turning back. This is what the people wish. Thank you.
All right, let's take a break at this point, and then we'll be back shortly.
Well, let me take your comment as well this morning, Bishop Amakri. So now this is where we are. We're waiting for the verdict of the Supreme Court on this particular matter. And of course, the Houses of Assembly perhaps need to be spoken to one way or the other. What are your expectations? What specifically would you say we should be saying to the Houses of Assembly so they can get the memo and pass the bill for the autonomy of the houses of the local government administrations in Nigeria?
Well, I would say to them that Nigerians are watching, and it will be inimical to Nigerian, our democratic, stability or growth, for any state House of Assembly member to think that you will go against this very, very bold step that the federal government has taken to return power to the people, because they are also beneficiaries of this. So if they look the other way around and turn their face to think that maybe their governors, as usual, will corner them, call them, and give them some envelopes, like they call them white envelopes or whatever the envelope is, and think that they will go the other way around, the masses will revolt about them, against them. Because it's like the words of Thomas Jefferson, who said, when injustice becomes law, resistance becomes a duty. If they refuse to do the right thing, the people will march on the street, because everybody is watching. People are getting so tired with where we are today, just because some few persons have decided in the name of democracy or politics, they are playing just politics of personal interest and not putting the people's interest first. So what we are discussing about today is actually something that has to do to the growth and progress of our dear country. So nobody should even think.
Sometimes, Mr. Makri, I apologize. Sometimes it is even getting people to understand what to engage on. For instance, if you raise these issues that we are talking about right now, do you think people even have the understanding? Maybe I should bring it to you, Mr. Kabashon. Do you think people have the understanding of what the issues are? Young people particularly. Do you think we have enough understanding? Do you think we have been able to give them enough communication, enough information for them to say, okay, we get the memo, we understand, and we're going to also put pressure on the members of the Houses of Assembly? What are the benefits for the young people?
The benefit for them is humongous, because, the local government is the incubation center for every aspect of our political life. Everybody who became president or senator or governor starts at the local government. It's the local government functionaries that develop their elections, because they have to win in every locality, in every polling unit by polling unit. So their involvement in local governance is very, very, very important. One, primary education, basic health needs, security within their environment, their community, and then employment possibilities, not just only employment, opportunities for innovations. And this is what is good. I mean, you are right that the education is not out there enough for the young people to grasp the amenity of what local governance can do to them. But they understand one thing clearly, that the local government that is closest to them, that should be accessible to them, for them to walk into and get governance, is not there. And so there leads to apathy. So we need to bring this back and get the young people involved that, listen, if you are going to grow tomorrow, you are the future of our country. You are the future leaders. We need to train you, cook you well at the local government with standards that you would magnify at the top. And this is what's very, very important. So we should take this seriously to our young people to understand that they have to be involved heavily and understand how these processes work for them.
Bishop Amakri, do you agree? How do you see us engaging the young people? I'm asking that because this is not salacious news. It's not interesting. It's not exciting. It's not, how should I put this, trending news and at that. So how do we make this issue of local government autonomy salacious, interesting for young people, so that they are actually interested and they invest their time to search for more?
Honestly, I agree with you totally, Ayo. I think the citizens, and that's why the government at all levels, they take advantage of the docility of our people. People, especially like you say, the young people. Honestly, you raise a very vital point. You're not seeing this in trending. And I think what we need to do going further, and this has to do with the responsibility of all political gladiators, especially those of us, some of us who are at the helms of affairs of leading political parties. That's what I would call political literacy, that I think all political parties need to embark on, okay, and see how we can educate our people, conscientize our people, especially the young people, because it is about their future we're talking about. I'm no more a youth. I'm over 40, okay? But I think that some of us also have lacked this. We have lacked this spirit of mentorship. Is it what we're going to pass over?
Audio is muted, but we thank you very much for that, Bishop Amakri, joining us from Port Harcourt. Bishop Amakri is Chairman YPP, joins us virtually from Port Harcourt in Rivers State, and Mr. Segun Akabashoron has been here with us. He's former Vice Chairman, Koshope Local Government between 2008 and 2011. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. Absolutely.
Now, we are going to hand the autonomy of the studio to the Business Morning on Sunrise Daily, where my colleague is standing by.
Ayo, I certainly received that autonomy with all of me, and I'm going to use it well, I promise you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. I'm Ini John Mekwa. We do business on this side of the show for just about 30 minutes before we head back to those very current and serious conversations. We start with oil, and we can tell you this morning it's green for the number. Oil prices steady in early trade on Tuesday as investors await that inflation data. A lot of data expected from the United States, from Europe, and all of that. And then OPEC, most important, they have their virtual meeting next week, the 2nd of June. Look at the numbers right there. Brent is up 0.16% at $83.23 a barrel. WTI also up. They always follow themselves, the same trend most of the time, not all of the time. $78.84 a barrel. That's the price for WTI. This is for the July features, and we know we'll soon be heading to August features. Most of these numbers are just features. Oil prices rose over 1% on Monday in muted trade. A lot of holidays yesterday. US, UK, they have that holiday, so that affected obviously the demand for oil. And then there's the US personal consumption expenditure that is expected this week. It will spotlight further signals about the interest rate policy of the United States, and the index is due on May the 31st. And then there's the German inflation data is expected on Wednesday. There's the Eurozone readings expected on Friday. All of these investors and traders are looking out for will give direction to the supply and demand of oil, and we know at the end of the day that is going to affect the price. Meanwhile, Goldman Sachs raised its global oil demand forecast for 2030 and expects consumption to peak by 2034. Talking about data looking into the future. Let's look at the Naira yesterday. A bit of good news if you look at the official number. I think in the parallel market it was still really down about 1.5. I think that's what it closed with. But we'll give you the official number. Now, NAFEM had a lot of presence, CBN presence yesterday. It's still willing buyer, willing seller thing, policy. It closed at 1,339 Naira, 33 kobo. While it opened at 1,482 Naira, 81 kobo. The Naira gained yesterday on NAFEM 9.67%. NAFEX was actually on the other side, but we know that NAFEM is where you have most of the activities, so we can take that as a more comforting value of the naira at this time. NAFEX, 1,481 naira 23 kobo. When it opened at 1,480 naira to 1 kobo, it actually lost marginally there. So I think the coming days will tell us if this is real, if we're going to find stability around 1.3, but we've been doing more of 1.415, for I think 2-3 weeks now. This CBN intervention, we'll see how long it will last. Now, tomorrow is a very big day for Nigeria. It might not be a public holiday, but exactly 1 year since President Bola Tinubu took over office, and exactly 1 year since we heard that phrase, subsidy is gone. A lot of people say it's a turning point for the economy, Nigeria's economy. Tomorrow it will be exactly 1 year. Well, I put this report together capturing some of those policies and expectations, and then reactions, of course, following them. The renewed hope agenda of the President Bola Tinubu-led administration promises to improve access to capital as a strategy to boost economic growth. At a time when headline inflation was 22.41% as at May 2023, food inflation was 24.82%, interest rate at 18.5%, and the naira was about 460 naira to a dollar, although it had hit more than 750 naira in the parallel market. Efforts such as the formation of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee, access to credit programs for startups and MSMEs, as well as conditional grants to nano businesses should serve as a vehicle to achieve this. However, about a year later, the continuous hike in interest rate to tame inflation may have undermined the efficiency of the initiatives, as interest rates in Nigeria remains higher than most of its peers on the continent.
And what I've had,
the sharp hike could be traced to the first major decision by President Tinubu.
No provision is there for fuel subsidy. The first subsidy is gone.
The sustenance of the subsidy removal is, however, in question, as the International Monetary Fund has suggested that it has been reinstated and will cost the country 8.43 trillion naira in 2024.
If naira had remained at 750 naira to a dollar, maybe even with movement in eyes, you could still be buying fuel at maybe 700 naira, 650 or 700 naira. But today, Asian had moved to back to 1,500 naira, and if you have to factor in that exchange rate, then you clearly admit that subsidy has crept back into the pricing of refined petroleum product, particularly fuel.
The MPC chairman and governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria.
The approach of engaging monetary policy to reduce inflation may be justified, but economists warn that in Nigeria's case, major drivers of inflation are controlled by the fiscal authority.
What are the critical factors in dealing with that? Yeah, the CBN might reach the limit of what it can do with monetary policy tools. There's a limit to that. If you check out, the statistics of it, what I found is in the region of 32-33% in terms of the impact of a hiking monetary policy rate on inflation rate. Look at the historical data, all right? So if that is the case, it means there are other factors that explain inflation in Nigeria.
While seeking ways to resolve the factors that make up the over 60% drivers of inflation, funding the budget through the domestic market may have been achieved, since hike in interest rate mostly translates to higher yields for treasury bills and bonds.
For the new domestic borrowing and the 2024 budget, which I said was 6 trillion naira, we actually have raised 4.5 trillion naira out of that. So it's not our money. You gave us money, and we'd like to thank you for that.
A more wholesome picture of the economy is not so pleasant for the real sector. The Chief Executive Officer of Coleman Wires and Cables, Mr. George Onofuokan, summarizes this by assessing efforts and results by the government.
Efforts I'll say they're getting it right on the effort. There'll be about 60-70% on the effort. On the result, I'll knock it down to about 50. The efforts are there, which is what is needed to be done is being done. The question is, how do you implement it, which is that is the result. That is where they lose the points. And they need to be a bit more consistent in balancing those results from the effort.
A wide perception for way forward as the country x-rays the activities of President Tinubu's leadership 1 year after includes a more coordinated operation of the monetary and fiscal authorities in the economy.
We should be seeing a lot more stability in our macroeconomic environment, starting with the FX environment. We cannot continue with this volatility. Secondly, we should see how we can reduce a lot of our imports. We should make a lot more progress in import substitution.
The countdown to the next May 29 begins as the administration of President Tinubu clocks 1 year. Economists and indeed all citizens are watching and counting the gains and pains that the administration will be remembered for. John Mekwa, Channels Television News.
Well, that's going to form the basis of conversations in the coming days, at least until next week. And obviously, it's going to be what we're going to be discussing. But for our DSTV viewers now, we have to head to Zamfara State. There's a commissioning about to take place there, the commissioning of some completed roads projects in Gusau, around UBA Roundabout and Freedom Square. And the governor of the state, Governor Dauda Lawal, is going to be there. It's going to be graced and performed by Ambassador Umar Damagun. He is the acting national chairman of PDP. So for our DSTV viewers, we're going to miss you, but you can always watch this program on YouTube channel. Now we'll still stick to other platform, which is the UK and the local Nigerian platform. We'll continue with Business Morning. And we'll continue with the conversation on some of the high points that report tried to bring out. The issue of subsidy. Is it still in existence or not? We saw the views there, both from IMF and Mr. Chuku, saying that we're still paying subsidy on petrol. Let's find out what the Chief Executive Officer of Business Day, Mr. Frank Aigboku, has to say about this. Mr. Aigboku, good morning and thank you for your time.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
Yes, because a lot of people believe that the turning point for the economy in Nigeria was when President Tinubu made that announcement on May 29, 2023, that subsidy is gone. But along the line, there's the conversation that subsidy has been reinstated. The IMF even has numbers as to how much the country will spend. So would you say that statement really made a difference?
Well, I think it did. We should be fair and balanced. It was a very courageous move for the president to attempt the removal of petrol subsidy as when he did. But we all know that the subsidy calculation at that point was on the basis of a specific exchange rate of the naira to the dollar. And all of that has changed, which also means that the basis for subsidy has also changed.
So, I mean, it's fair to say, like Mr. Chiku said in that report, since Naira is no longer going for 750 Naira, there's subsidy in existence on petrol, even as we speak.
Without a question, there is a subsidy on petrol. When you look at landing price of the product in the region of 900 to 1,000 Naira a litre, and we are buying petrol at, in some places, close to half of that. So without any question, there is a subsidy element today in the price of petrol. In fact, some people said some time ago that the subsidy today was even higher than it was when the removal was attempted on the 29th of May last year.
Yeah, well, IMF has placed it above 8 trillion Naira. But let's also look at another major policy pronouncement by this administration is the convergence of the exchange rate. We still see the Naira, well, it's been doing between 1,300 and 1,500 in the last couple of months. Would you say we have seen the benefit of that attempt yet, or we still have to wait a while?
I don't think the benefit has kicked in as much as people will desire. We still have significant volatility in rates, and as you know, volatility is a key thing that investors run away from. Again, you need to go back to May of last year, very courageous move to take away petrol subsidy, to take away the various exchange rates that we had then. I think for me, those point to the potential that this president has demonstrated, that when he wants to do something, he would have the courage to do it. Unfortunately, there are many things that should have been done to support that which the president has not done. So what does that mean? It means that outcomes have been suboptimal, and the pain for Nigerians, the pain is growing, and despair is also expanding all across. The moves that the president needed to make to support the near flotation of the naira, the president hasn't done. We heard of all the dollars we were told will come from India, will come from Qatar, will come from UAE. We have seen none of that. The asset sale that this government should have engaged in, it has simply been unable or perhaps even unwilling to do that. If you go to the old federal secretariat today, I think you will weep for Nigeria to see government assets that are rotting there. If you go to the inner marina, if you go to broad streets, and you just see the litany of federal government assets that have been allowed to rot for decades, your heart will sink. All of that, in my view, provides a platform for a significant regeneration of Lagos, transfer of assets, creation of jobs. All of this could have been done, but we haven't seen it done. That's why I say and speak of the presence of the potential. This government, this president is a man, if he wants to do something, he will do it. Subsidy is gone, he merely just spoke it. The coastal road, the way he's pursuing it, if he will employ that gusto, that courage to focus on key elements that will serve this government and serve this economy well, we will be talking about a different thing today on the first anniversary of this administration.
So obviously, Mr. Igwe, do you think this should be where he would start his journey to the second anniversary, looking at those assets? Are there other things, low-hanging fruits, you think? Especially remember that the president had months ago declared a state of emergency on food insecurity. I guess that might also, because that's a major driver of inflation, that might also demand a lot of attention as we get into the second year of this administration.
You asked the question, are there other things that the president can do? And you even spoke about agriculture. I think we must say, in all honesty, in the area of agriculture, the minister has failed and has failed woefully. There has been no meaningful improvement in the sector. I'll give you an example. People who know are saying two things. Firstly, Nigeria's agricultural production, which in the past, say 9 years ago, hovered around 4-5% per annum, is today around 1.2, 1.4% per annum. Our population is growing at 2.5, 2.6 per annum, which simply means our food production is not growing to even meet the rate at which our population is growing. So it doesn't matter what you do about interest rate. Food prices will simply not come down because food is not available. That's one. Secondly, last week we heard the French energy company Total saying it is investing $6 billion in Angola and that it had considered Nigeria but chose to favor investing in Angola over Nigeria, and simply for one reason. The policy environment in Nigeria, they said, is not attractive. For me, that is a big indictment of this administration. There is no way Nigeria is going to get out of the crisis that is in today without significant growth in oil production. We are producing oil about the same level we were doing in 1992. You can imagine what the population of Nigeria was in 1992. Our electricity generation is at a level it was when we attempted privatization in 2013. These are key drivers of the economy. Oil for the foreign exchange importance, power and electricity for its ability to energize economic activity. On those two counts, we are failing, and we are failing woefully. So if this government decides to change the narrative, it must focus on significantly expanding oil production. It must produce more gas for a world that is hungry for gas. It must improve the ability to get food from the farm to the markets. Today, economists talk about up to 40% waste from the farm to the market. If government can reduce that by, say, 10% every year, and in 4 years is able to reduce that to zero, without planting any additional, acreage, we will see significant availability, increase in availability of food for the people. I dare say there has to be joined up thinking in government. There has to be better coordination. We need a lot more of that. And as I said earlier, this government needs to move from potential to actually delivering results, delivering outcomes for the people of Nigeria.
A whole lot there, a whole lot. And, I guess we need to stick to these conversations so that the presidency and ministers, even as you have talked about the Minister of Agriculture, would know that the people actually know what they want. Thank you so much for your time, Chief Executive Officer of Business Day. Let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll talk more about this. And of course, the Naira is not out of the conversation yet. Join us again. Welcome back to Watching Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. We head to the commodity space, and Naira is very important to us with Dumebi Oluwole, Senior Associate with Financial Derivatives Company. Dumebi, good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning, Amy.
Yeah,
Good morning.
So the Naira appreciated. Well, the appreciation didn't go round. We see it only appreciated on NAFEM.
Yes.
Gained 9.67%. But is that because of an intervention by the central bank? Because I think the CBN was really active in the market yesterday.
I mean, that could have been one of the reasons, because we did see a decline in the external reserves. But then again, we also saw an increase in transaction activities. When you look at the turnover for the day, you'd see that there was an increase compared to the day before and some other days before and few days before that. So that
was that on NAFEM or NAFEX or parallel market?
NAFEM.
Okay.
So the NAFEM window is where the trading activities do happen, right? So NAFEX activities, when you look at the FMDQ's methodology methodology for calculating the NAFEX, you realize that it doesn't only capture that day's activity, but also captures the OTC futures. Yeah, so it captures other derivatives markets as well. But NAFEM primarily tells you what happened for that day. So the inflow of dollars and the demand for dollars put together. So that's the price of the market transactions for that particular day. So that's one of the reasons why we're seeing this. But I'm sure you also know what happened at the parallel markets. I know you're getting there.
That one drop, and that's been our comfort for some days.
Exactly.
The Naira has been more valuable there, but I mean, yesterday it was really different.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons attributed to that. That the CBN did release, I think, a circular talking about
guidelines
BDC.
for,
Yes, and that we need more BDC. They need the BDCs to relicense, basically. And so one of the things that has affected, or one of the impact of that particular move is that some BDCs that usually would be able to, sell dollars and all, they were not able to do that.
And they don't want to talk now. Recently, since we had that guideline, been trying to get them on the program.
I mean, it's just one of those things. So I'm just coming off from one of the things the last speaker mentioned about the policy environment in Nigeria as being a huge disincentive, to investors coming into the country. These are one of the things that, keep investors quite jittery about the economy, where today we're hearing that they're selling to BDCs, tomorrow you're telling all BDCs
Exactly, because I mean, the CBN has sold to BDCs a whole lot of time, even under the present CBN governor.
Exactly.
So suddenly, you want them to relicense.
Exactly.
That brings a whole lot of uncertainty.
Yes, and investors will definitely be very cautious about that. And one of the significant things, whenever, it's important that I do mention this, we are in a state of reform. So it's like all eyes on the monetary policy authorities and all eyes on the government. And the policy environment in itself has to be very stable and very concerted in a way that businesses can anticipate what the next move of policy authorities would be. But if they are unable to do that, it significantly reduces business sentiments, investor confidence, and even consumer confidence. Because businesses are unable to plan, investors are unable to determine what next will happen. And all of this uncertainty feeds even into how businesses and even investors will price the Naira when you look at it side by side, a basket of other currencies.
Yeah, talking about basket, let's see what's going on with commodities at this time. I mean, that's our primary concern, what we eat and all of that. We could have the commodities slide right there. What's going on? We see Gary has gone up again.
Exactly.
We see rice too has gone up. But I mean, I think now it's even cheaper than what we had before.
But it's still pretty expensive compared to where we were. I mean, some years ago, a bag of rice now is about 80,000 Naira. And
but there was a time it dropped from 80,000 Naira, especially the locally produced ones. Went about 50 or so.
Yes, but I mean, at that time we did see, I think, an increase in supply, especially towards Lagos State.
Planting season? Are we in any of this?
There is that, but there's also the fact that at the time, I think one of the things that affected it was the borders were I think closed for some of the commodities coming into the country at the time. So there was like an increase in local production, but it's also very possible that the local production of rice right now has also reduced. But then again, we're also seeing the impact of the exchange rates on imported, because if you look at the commodities, rice, long grain, and most of the local production is actually short grain rice. So the price of long grain has actually increased. But specifically, I actually even want to point your attention to this tomato prices. It's really high right now.
Someone told me she went to the market over the weekend and she couldn't just believe it.
I mean, someone bought 2,000 Naira worth of tomatoes, and when we counted it was 15 pieces, just 15 pieces. But basically, one of the reasons why this is going up right now is because of the planting season, and a huge issue as well affecting this is post-harvest losses. So some of the tomatoes coming, but one of the things I actually want to point your attention to that's happening in the domestic commodity space is miniaturization and sachetization. So we're seeing a lot of repackaging of a lot of this commodity, so people are actually able to buy. So for a bag of rice now, instead of people actually buying like the 50 kg bag of rice, we're seeing markets, retailers and even wholesalers rebag some of this to like 5 kg. Some people are even selling as low as 2 kg so that people are able to buy. So that's one of the things that's happening now in the
it's a new trend. I'm sure it will be emphasized during Christmas as we get closer to the end of the year. But anyway, thank you so much. We're out of time, Dumebi. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
your time. So we're almost out of time, but I can't close this without telling you that the all-share index yesterday was in the green, 0.26%. Equity cap was also gained 141.89 billion naira. So the NGX closed in the green yesterday, first time after some trading session. We hope it does again today. Always remember, 1 p.m. I will give you fresh market numbers, intraday numbers. Ladi Williams will be here with Will Ibong, and you have a 55-minute package on Business Incorporated. I'm Minnie John McCall. Let's head back to the Sunrise Daily Studios.
One runway, Lagos one runway operational. And so we quickly went to work. So the low-hanging fruit, that one was initiated by us. We got people, we got funding somehow, and we quickly resurfaced and repaired 1-8 right, and 1-8 right was opened just this year. And so we have 2 functional runways in Lagos. Their funds were trapped here because of lack of liquidity on the part of Nigeria, because of so many subsidies we pay with our foreign earnings. And so foreign airlines were threatening to stop operating to Nigeria. Now, I must give credit to all those in the financial sector for this. We had to work closely with the CBN, we had to work closely with the Minister of Finance, we had to work closely with all of the ministers in the financial sector. And by our persistence and working closely with them, of course, you know, we are happy to announce that we have cleared all the trap forms on the CBN. It remains suspended. It was never Air Nigeria. It was Ethiopian Air trying to flag our flag. It was not Air Nigeria. That is the truth. There was not an Air Nigeria. It was only painted Air Nigeria. It was Ethiopian airline trying to fly our flag. If it is so, why not allow our local people to fly our flag? Why bring a foreigner to fly our flag? So nobody should deceive you that it was Air Nigeria. Air Nigeria must be indigenous, must be wholly Nigeria, or must be for the full benefit of Nigeria. Not that 60% of the profit was another country. How does that benefit us?
Well, that's basically what we're talking about in the next 25 minutes. You just heard the Minister of Aviation there, Mr. Festus Keyamo, SAN, giving his own report card. And we've just brought you some of the highlights of the ministerial briefing. If you're not watching them, please, by all means, see how it is that you can get to watch the ministerial briefings and, you know, follow the sectoral reports of what the ministers have been able to do so far in the last 1 year. But we're talking aviation now, and some of the highlights which you heard there, talking about the repair of runways, particularly in Lagos, the clearance of debt owed airlines, that's basically what he also talked about. And then he also clarified the situation of Nigeria Air, which he says remains suspended indefinitely because, according to him, it was Ethiopian Air masking as Nigeria Air. Well, we have to discuss with us this morning Dr. Oche Victor Elias, who is a Regional Technical Coordinator, Air Navigation Service for Regional Safety Oversight Organization, comprising Nigeria, Ghana, Gambia, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Cape Verde, and Liberia. And he's also been a technical advisor to 2 former ministers of aviation. He is that amongst many other things that he is in the aviation sector. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
So good to have you, Mark, and good morning, Nigerians. It's been a while.
Quite a lot to munch on within the aviation sector.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure that as one who is an expert within that sector, you must have been, you know, putting your ears to the ground to hear how the minister will say he's done in the last 1 year. Normally, what are the parameters that one should look out for in rating how well an aviation sector is doing, of course, apart from accidents?
Thank you very much. I think basically for me, I usually continue to talk about aviation as basically transport systems. And then it comprises the man, the machine, and the medium. Basically, when we talk about the man, you're talking about the pilot, the crew, the engineers, the air traffic controllers, and all of its embellishments. And then you begin to talk about the machine, which is the fuselage itself, the aircraft itself, the airworthiness component of the aircraft. And then the medium is a critical channel it's flying. You're talking about the weather, which is also a very key aspect. And then looking at it, basically, a lot of Nigerians begin to look at what I call the soft or the hardwares. For us, aviators were more committed to the invincible leg, the navigational aids, the airworthiness of the aircraft. And then we begin to dovetail into the physicals, where we begin to talk about the ACs in the terminals and the comfort and all of it. And then the consumer protection, the customers' rights, and all of the other legs. It's a whole lot of it's a very sweet sector, but that it's one of the most regulated sector because of the safety requirement, the safety inclination, and that's a journey when you begin to talk about safety within aviation, with all its challenges, because there's no parking space in the air. And because there's no parking space in the air, you can't take chances. In aviation, there's nothing like I thought. And since there are a lot of commitments, necessities, you have too many subsets. And these subsets makes a lot of professionals within the sector that are quite independent, yet interrelated and interdependent on themselves to have a very optimum output. So safety is aviation, aviation is safety, and there is no Nigerian aviation. There's one global aviation as far as civil aviation is concerned. And so there are global standards within or without we must continue to uphold, we must continue to work towards, because generally we usually say to people, safety is a journey, it's not a destination.
Well, thankfully, there's been no major mishap. I mean, anything bordering on anything fatal in the last 1 year. It was actually for quite some time now in the aviation sector. And it's certainly something that has, will I say, buoyed the confidence of a lot of travelers who are now using that particular medium to travel. But apart from that, and I know that is significant, we've seen a number of mishaps.
Discussions.
Yes, airlines, or let's say airplanes overshooting the runway, some of them sliding off, skidding off the runway, near misses, so to speak. But nothing that really has gone off, has been fatal, thankfully. However, are there other parameters that you look at when you were listening to the minister yesterday? Were you satisfied with the things that he reeled out as his achievement in the last 1 year?
I want to say this about the Minister of Aviation Nigeria. My first take home for him is his passion. Number 2 is his openness. Number 3 is how much he's in a hurry to deliver. Number 4 is the fact that he's a policy person. He's not an aviator, but he's coming very fast to learn the processes, the requirements, and the expected standards. I listened to him talk yesterday, and those were tangible facts of things that have been done. And I'm also impressed that he's not carried away to think he's there yet, but he has eyes on the ball and knows that this is a continuum. There are a whole lot of others he needs to do. What I say to people, first, the vision I expect, and I'm believing the minister is working on the fact that you make flying not a big man's affair or the big people affair, but that it's a Nigerian thing, and that it's affordable for everybody, and that the confidence expected from the sector, it's there, and that people will feel very comfortable to fly as much as possible. Nigerians are in their highest state of piety when they're in the aircraft. And so the more we allow them understand that this thing doesn't just fall from the skies, and that the guy inside called the pilot or the chief pilot, the pilot in command and his assistants or first officer and the rest crew are not ready to commit suicide.
Well, so maybe some people will say they're in their highest state of piety because they think they're closer to God.
Maybe because of the altitude.
Perhaps.
So seriously, I want to commend his drive. And there is strategy to it. I whispered to him once, and I sincerely think he's doing a wonderful thing on that aspect, that Nobody makes a move or journey by looking backwards. Once you come, keep looking forward. When you see the booby traps or you see the potholes, you can ask questions. And that's why you see the areas where he's supported, which I really readily accept. And I enjoy the fact that, he's looked at the government or the past leadership within and what they've done that is right. He's commended them, upheld it. And the areas he feels there's a need to retwitch, recouch, recalibrate, or suspend, he's done that. But keep looking at it. Why? Because there's no time. Fortunately for some of us who've been lucky enough to play within the African sub-region, I'm the chairman of the African Aviation Infrastructure Gap Analysis under the African Union Commission. Why? Because we're trying to see possibilities to do an analysis of the airspace as it concerns member states within the African continent, the 54 of the 55 African states. Because you can't talk about single African air transport market without understanding the infrastructure gap and how well we can be able to fine-tune these variations amongst member states to have what? A seamless airspace. And so we don't have time. By geography and by demography, a lot is expected from Nigeria as it relates to civil aviation. We have the human capacity, we have the resources within our continent, even globally. And so he needs to drive, and I enjoy the fact that he's moving fast. Is it 100% perfect? No, but that he's done some very tangible things that you can touch. Yeah.
Are we looking, when you say he has his eyes on the ball, have we been able to clearly, or has he been able to clearly articulate what his goals are? Because some people will say Nigeria is too big not to have a transport hub in the aviation sector.
Beautiful. When we talk about transport hub, what makes a hub? That connectivity is made easy. And then you begin to look at the little neighboring country like Benin Republic,
or even Togo.
Let me go to Togo as Sky. What makes for a hub? A conducive environment where connectivity is plausible, is feasible, is ideal, and is workable. And that's exactly why the hub for civil aviation in Nigeria is Lagos. Now, I know that the international terminal is there, but must find a way such that you land at the international. You don't need to come out of the airport and then walk through the Air Force what's it called again? The base, Air Force base, to go to the domestic. There must be a way where you just land and you can connect, and the other airlines domestically can move you to the other places. So the possibility to have a hub is there. The vision is there. But I will say this. The first aspect I like about what he's done, I'm not his spokesperson, but I'm in the aviation sector for more than 20 years. I'm by the mercies of God playing within the African region now. I chair the Aviation Air Navigation Service Technical Working Group for the AUC. But what I'm enjoying about some of the things he's doing is, number one, we're going to talk about the wet lease, the dry lease procedures, that will be blacklisted. So what is going to cause some other countries to get an aircraft, maybe a Boeing 737-300 series, will be like quadruple what you need to pay for you to get it to Nigeria. He needs to clean the stable, and he's doing that. That the lease is, very few persons can just go and pay Airbus to buy a brand new aircraft. You arrange the payment and you structure it, or you lease. And then when we talk about this leasing, it's better to lease dry than to lease wet, because when they're talking about wet, they're going to give you the crew. So you're paying the crew, and you're paying for all other embellishments. But when you have the dry, you can now bring it to Nigeria, and the beautiful policy of the Nigerianization of the pilots, the crew. A lot of our young people, the thing about aviation is that once you're there as a professional, you can't fit into another sector per se.
So you think that we can have a hub sometime very soon?
It's very possible. All we need to do is to continue to strengthen the infrastructure that we have. If Lome will accommodate Sky, and they're doing fantastically well, and then connecting to virtually about 34, 36 of the African states, member states, we can do it in Lagos. And I keep saying it to people. The strategy is that the domestic airlines must find a way to cooperate. The very little ones you merge. So competition becomes easier and be able to allow them play within that civil world.
You've talked about how the minister has been very passionate and has thrown his weight. I think we can feel it in the area of local airlines, where he's thrown his weight behind local airlines being able to fly internationally. But I'm sure that Ayo will certainly want to explore much more in that area. Ayo, over to you.
Well, I think it's a good place to start, Malcolm, because when the minister says, or we hear that the minister is supporting local airlines in country, and of course the support for an air peace, and perhaps one or two others who are interested, one wonders how you received the prize. I don't know what language you want to use when other international airlines trying to shut Air Peace out of the London route simply because of its initiative to lower the costs. How did you receive? What exactly happened? Give us an understanding of what happened at that time.
Well, number one, you should understand that there's politics everywhere. The global aviation politics about the game of we may be playing globalization, open skies, single Africa Air transport market, allowing everybody to play within the global family, but their interests are sublime. Now, when you talk about routes, there are routes that are more lucrative. You can't compare the Lagos-Abuja route to the perhaps, let me say, Akure-Ibadan route, or Abuja-Akure, or Ilorin route. So, London or the UK is one of the most lucrative routes. And the strategies that is tied around the politics of interest, where, they'll tell you the British Airways is not actually per se a national carrier, but a flag carrier supported by the British government to a large extent, but there are investors and business interests around it. So number one is that the bilateral service agreements that we have allow for reciprocity between Nigeria and other states, and we have one with the UK system or the UK government. And so what Air Peace has done is fantastic. We may not have a national carrier, but the encouragement coming from the Nigerian government to strengthen flag carriers will help for us to begin to maximize profit from it. Number one, price will drop because of the function of demand and supply. Number two, that you have a flag carrier, there's more interest, more respect, more courtesies around it. Yes, they want to suffocate the flag carrier called Air Peace, but I enjoy the staying power of the CEO and Allen Onyema, and he deserves all the support that the Ministry of Aviation, Minister of Aviation Festus Keyamo has given him. And he should be able to do more for all of our other flyers. But the beauty of it is that there's a shared responsibility when opportunities like that are given to you. They can't do it for you, but the necessary policy support the government can't do for you. But you need to sit down and be able to distill that which you need to do as an operator that you can operate anywhere in the world. Number one, again, let me add to it, is that Air Peace has an IOSA certification. So basically they have the big gusto to go within the global world to compete. Two, they have a lot of state-of-the-art machines that are flying for them. Three, they are big enough to be able to more or less, how am I going to put it, be able to take shocks. And so it's a plausible development because the British Airways has been flying Nigeria for about 75 years or more. And Nigeria seems to be one of their most profiting routes. We tried it at ARIC, but the staying power of ARIC within the global politics wasn't there. But I'm enjoying the fact that Air Peace is come. Air Peace understand the global requirement, and they are ready to muscle themselves through it with the support and the plausible policy of the Nigerian government. So it's a win-win for us. And where you have alternatives, prices begin to come down. That's why you can see Nigerians being able to connect from Lagos to the UK for about 1.2 million, which before it's not even possible for an economy ticket.
Well, that leads me to this question of Nigeria Air. Well, Malcolm mentioned earlier that you've worked with two ministers, so definitely you can take that on. Help Nigerians understand. One Minister of Aviation, former Minister of Aviation, is under investigation now, perhaps even being prosecuted because, well, partly because of this Nigeria Air debacle. Help us understand exactly what the issues are. We've been hearing about this Nigeria Air thing for quite a while, and this is where we are now. So help us understand what exactly is going on, especially when the former minister said this is Nigeria Air, but the current minister is now saying no, it was never Nigeria Air, it was just an international Ethiopian Airlines trying to position itself as Nigeria Air. Help us understand what happened and what is happening.
I may not understand basically the content of the agreement between Ethiopia and the supposed Nigerian Air in terms of the structuring, but basically for me as an aviator, I've come to discover that it's best that nations and states and member states stay away from national carriers. It's better to have flag carriers and identify with them as such. The reason being that, basically aviation gestation period in terms of your net profit is about 10 years, and your profit is not beyond 10-12%. So it's capital intensive, and once you have political interferences on it, it's going to most likely not be feasible, and that's why a lot of states across the globe, across the world, are shifting away from national carriers. Yes, it brings prestige, but what the prestige can do for you is exactly what the flag carrier can do for you, and that's what we're enjoying with Airpeace. And we're encouraging the minister to allow for many of the Nigerian domestic airlines to begin to take advantage of regional and sub-regional clusters and be able to do what a Sky, for example, is doing. So, number one, I don't understand. I may not know the details of the agreement they have with Ethiopia and how it's either it tilted in favor of Ethiopia. But basically, I think if it's not clear, it's a bit opaque, then it's to be subject to suspension and checks. For me, basically, I want to say that when you sit on the hot seat called public service, everything about what you do there is public. And so you must be able to subject all you do to this public discourse. And where the people are not comfortable, they have a right to question it. The structuring, I may not know, but basically it's possible that we've done it before with Virgin Atlantic, we came with Virgin Nigeria. It's all about the structuring. The details of the structuring I don't have, but I will encourage that we support with what the minister is doing now, our flag carriers like Airpeace and the rest to go into the global market and play big and encourage the small players within our domestic route to merge. When they merge, they're going to help us with what we call the interlining, code sharing. That, for example, if Malkwe is headed for Lagos with Airpeace and Airpeace not there, perhaps they had a little delayed due operations, and Aero Contractors is departing for Lagos, she could submit her ticket she's gotten from Airpeace to Aero Contractor, hop into the aircraft, because people that fly is time-bound and it's business inclined for them. So when we allow and encourage that the little players, the 3-4 airliners, 2 aircrafts, one is gone for C-check, only one is flying, which is an issue, and I'm very happy that the DG of NCA has given a thought to it based on the discussions we had before, that when they merge together, unnecessary competitions are reduced and they can begin to play, if not in the global, but in the regional market, because routes are basically clustered in terms of the A routes, the B routes, the C and the D routes. And everybody wants to function where the profit is maximum. So for the suspension, the minister knows more details. It's allowed for them to look at it, retweet it, or even suspend. But for me, let him maintain the runway heading, so to say, when we talk in our aviation parlance, by encouraging professionalism, encouraging output, encouraging the operators to stay on the best practices in line with the SAPs, of the ICAO SAPs, and then be able to encourage performance yet again. Keep the other one in the kitty, in the fridge or whatever, in the cooler.
Okay,
and if it's
I think
necessary,
that point.
I will go for flag carriers for now than national carriers.
Okay. Now that also
I guess it's a fine place to wrap up our conversation on the aviation sector. As we look forward in the next 3 years, you have said the minister has his eye on the ball. We do not know how much longer the president will retain his services because the president has also said very clearly that ministers who are not performing, will certainly be shown the door. So I do not know. You are a Nigerian, certainly playing in that sector. You think he's performing?
Yes, I think he is, and I think he needs more time, and he needs all the professionals to support him, the aviators to support him, and also encourage him to have more engagements with the players within the industry in terms of consultation, stakeholders meeting, and if it's possible for him every 3 months, subject what you're doing, your policies, your ideas, your dreams, your vision, your steps to them for their endorsement and validation. I will say this for us. We don't need to keep looking backwards and expect to make any good strides. Wherever you keep moving, wherever you find some pothole, stop and work on it and continue to move. The world, Africa is waiting for us. I'm fortunate enough to play within the African market and the African Civil Aviation Commission. And I know how much I look forward to Nigeria. So let's be less critical in terms of rubbing ourselves down, but stay together, repair where it needs to be repaired, strengthen ourselves. It's not that evil. It's not that bad. We're ahead of a lot of countries. I knew what it was 20 years ago when we came into the industry. In terms of navigation, in terms of safety, our state safety records, our audits are looking better. Are we there yet? But we can get better. So basically, it's just to encourage him.
So in the next 3 years, if he stays on, if he's retained in that same ministry, what should we be looking to see?
I will expect more consultation. I will expect more passion. I will expect more team play. I will expect more delivery.
In concrete, in terms of concrete things that, people should be able to see on the ground. 1,
complete the second runway. Bring in, support the MRO. We already have one within the Gulf of Guinea by the IBOM for big aircrafts, fuselage, bigger aircrafts. Be able to increase trainings, be able to increase oversight. Let's going to improve on our audits. Let's continue to increase in terms of our airports. Yes, a lot of airports are called international, but I can't recognize international airports above 4 or 5. But what happens to the domestic? Be able to work on it. The navigational systems are there, rightful calibrations of these equipments, dominating what we need to do within our West Africa and Africa because of our geography and demography, and take our rightful place and make Lagos a hub.
Certainly that will be something to look forward to, Lagos becoming a hub. I have to thank you very much for coming on Sunrise Today this morning. Dr. Oche Victor Elias is the Regional Technical Coordinator, Air Navigation Service for the Regional Safety Oversight Organization, and has also been a technical advisor to 2 former ministers of aviation. Thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure. So nice to be here again.
So we'll wrap up the program this morning. We hope that it has been of great education to you, as it has been to us. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. We got all your messages on X and other platforms. Thank you so much for sharing. Have a wonderful day.